And I've been lucky enough to do with this organization, do an Ironman and a full 100-mile run. And so for those of you, thank you. But my point is, for those of you that don't know, an Ironman is a 2.4-mile swim, a 112-mile bike ride, and then a 26.2-mile run at the end. And you do that all in one day. Some people think it takes like a weekend. It's not. And in fact, you have to do that in under 17 hours. So, I mean, that's a lot of work. And when I tell people this, when I tell people that I've done a 100-mile run, your first thought is, I could never do that. I can barely run a mile. I can't swim. I don't have a bike. And so often when we look at how we want to change the world and what we want to do to change the world, or goals that we have, we see the big picture. We see what we have to do. We see all the work that goes into it. And we forget that small steps create a huge impact. And just when I was training for the 100-mile run and for Ironman, there's about 9 months of training. Every week and a half to 2 weeks, you'd have a day off. So that's about 250 days of training just to get to the starting line. But the miraculous thing about that is you can miss a few days. You can not do some workouts. Because there was a compounding interest of those small acts and those small workouts that added up to let you get to the starting line. And not once did I run 100 miles for my training. And not once did I do a full distance Ironman. I didn't do a full distance 112-mile bike ride or a full marathon before that, or a 2.5-mile swim. It's a compounding interest that got you there, and the compounding effects. And so, when we think about changing the world, don't think about the big picture. When you think about changing your club, don't think about the big picture. What's the next thing that you can do? The other reason why I'm up here, and the reason why, which is, as you heard, is about RILA, Rotary Youth Leadership Awards. There's been a lot of people in this room who have attended it, and it's one of the most life-changing experiences you will ever have. Ask anybody who's gone. They'll tell you that they have met friends that they didn't know when they went there that have changed their life. When you go there, you tell complete strangers things you haven't told your spouse, your best friends, your family, and these are people you met 24 hours ago. So think about that. You get to meet some people who are going to change your life. And the impact that we have is we get to help create better leaders for tomorrow. We get to help adults and teens understand themselves better and have more self-confidence. And the way it works is you arrive on Friday morning and you leave on Sunday morning. And there's a lot of you who have picked up students, have dropped them off and both picked them up. And the difference between Friday morning and Sunday morning, like you cannot get kids to leave. That's one of our biggest struggles. Like, all right, you really do have to go now. Really. Because and these are complete strangers. We break them up into groups on purpose of people they don't know. And all in 48 hours that happens. And I tell you 48 hours because of this fact. The average person will live to be 78 years old. That's about 683,000 hours of living. 48 hours of that is less than 0.1%. And in that time frame, we change their lives forever. We completely change the trajectory of their life. All because of one weekend of their entire life. And how I got started with Rotary was over a cup of coffee with my really good friend Tom Cody. And so often, when we think about things that are going to change our lives, or how we're going to change the world, we think it's going to be this big miraculous event. But it's not it at all. It's those small moments that create a world of change for you. And if we think about why we're all here today, besides the conference, besides being Rotarians, why can't we even call ourselves Rotarians? It's because of one person, Paul Harris, decided that he wanted to start an organization that would go out and change the world. Today, Rotary has about 1.2 million members. If you compare that to the world population, that's not a lot. That's less than 0.1% of the world. This seems pretty insignificant for an organization. But think about this. In 2016 alone, we had $645 million in donations of in-kind and cash donations. We had 12 million volunteer hours. Let me break that down for you. That's 1,369 years of service in 1 year from one organization. We had 35,000 active projects. From one organization that represents less than 1/10 of the world population. Imagine if everybody is Rotarian. How much better would the world be? How much more impactful would the world be? All from one organization that represents less than 1/10%. And we think about polio. 2 drops change lives forever. So it means that 2 drops can do that. And as you saw on the slide, in 2015, only 74 cases of polio existed, which doesn't seem like a lot. It's pretty low. But for those families, that's life-changing. It's life-ending for some of them. So for those 75 people, it completely changes their lives. It's not just their lives, it's their families' lives. And on the immunization day, it's not just the children that are saved, it's the people who are saved who are giving the immunization as well. You just heard the speech about how much she loved to be there and how impactful it was. And that wasn't really a significant amount of time in her life, but it was impactful from what she did with it. So don't think that we have to do all these great things. But here's the great thing. In 1789, the first case of polio was noticed, or was recorded. Rotary has only been fighting polio since 1985. And look at the progress that we've had. You just saw on the slides how far it's gotten down to India in just a few years. We're this close to ending polio because of one organization that represents less than 1/10 of the world population. Yes, we've had help. We've had a lot of help. But think about this. If Paul Harris never would have started Rotary, where would polio be today? How many more lives would be affected? But it doesn't end with Rotary. Salesforce has its 1-1-1 initiative, where 1% of its products, 1% of its people, and 1% of its profit is donated back to the community. For most of us, 1% doesn't sound like a lot. It seems pretty insignificant. But here is the impacts that it's had since it started in the 1990s. $160 million in donations, 228 years of service, 31,000 charities have been impacted because of one organization that decided to give 1% of its people back, 1% of this organization back. But it doesn't stop there. In the 1980s, a man named Jay Weinstein was visiting Europe and he noticed what a designated driver was. And prior to the 1980s, no one in America really knew what it was. And so what he did is he came back to America. He said, I need to change this. And his mindset wasn't, let's create a campaign, let's do this giant thing. He reached out to 160 TV shows. He didn't ask them for a whole episode, he didn't ask for a whole series, not 20 minutes, not 10 minutes, not 5 minutes, not even a minute. He asked for 5 seconds of their time to promote being a designated driver. 5 seconds. It was so easy for the writers and producers of that show that they could barely say no. They couldn't say no. In fact, for many of them, it was just filler time. But here is the impact. From 1988 to 1992, in just 4 years, death by drunk driving went down to 5,768 people. From one man that asked for 160 TV shows for 5 seconds of their time. 5,768 may not seem like a lot to you, but that's human lives. And we don't know who those lives are. It could be the people at your table. It could be your family members. It could be your friends. It could be people that are going out to change the world right now. We don't know who those people are. And that's the incredible thing, is we never know. But because one man decided that he wanted to go and change the world, and all he did was ask for 160 TV shows for 5 seconds of their time, he saved 5,768 lives. And my second to last example is what we're going to do later today with our service project. You know, as Rotarians, we're big thinkers. We want to have a big impact. And so doing this hygiene project and packing backpacks may not seem like a lot. But as you heard in the oral health partnership, it changes lives, it saves lives. It helps families become more secure and more financially secure. And helps them worry less about what they need to do. And what an impact that we can have. So the ripple effect that we're going to have is not going to end just with us. So be glad about this. Don't take it lightly. Don't think that it's just packing backpacks or oral hygiene, because it's going to change lives. My last example is going to be a tough one for me. because as people, as Rotarians, we know thousands of people. And we have people in our lives who significantly change them. And for me, one of those people was my friend Ashton Sager. And if you ever met her, she was one of the most impactful and kind and loving people you will ever meet. She helped me run RILA for 5 years. And unfortunately, on May 2nd, she passed away. And in an instant, my life has changed because I lost one of my best friends. Someone who I knew I could always tell anything to, that would always be there to support me, and always want to help me out. And she wanted to see people be successful. And I want to tell you, I know that you all have an Ashton in your life. You probably have multiple Ashtons. And that's one person out of the thousands of people that you know. And from a quantitative perspective, it doesn't seem very significant. From a qualitative perspective and from an impact, they mean the world to you. They have changed your life just by being themselves. And I will bet everything I own, everything I will own, and everything that I can get my hands on that you are somebody's Ashton as well. You have changed someone's life so significantly just by being yourself, by giving them the gift of yourself, by supporting them. And so you have changed their life, whether you know it or not. And so in case you still don't believe me, I have a funny example because I know that's a little heavy. So I want you to think about one day you wake up late, whether it be for a meeting, for school, or for an appointment. And so you wake up late, and you get out of bed, you get in the shower, you get dressed. Actually, you get out of the shower first before you get dressed. I tried that once, it did not work out. And so you go, and you get out of your house, and you get into your car, and you're driving. And since we're all Rotarians, we don't break any laws, and we don't speed. All right, no, less laughter than I thought, but that's okay. That's okay, just roll with it. And you get on the highway, and you get into the right lane, and you're driving, and you get into the left lane, and you're like, I really need to get there. So this one time, I'm just gonna go a little bit above the speed limit, so you get into the left lane. So you're going, and all of a sudden, someone from the middle lane cuts in front of you and goes 10 miles below the speed limit. That person just changed your life. Yes.
I would just like to share with you that Delta Kappa Gamma is an international women's organization of teachers. And they have a collegial magazine. And in this month's issue, there's an article about a young woman who was struggling, who went to RILA. And her life's changed and things snowballed for her. The person who wrote the article entitled it Access Rotary, Building Community Relationships for Student Success.
Thank you. Anything else? Thank you for the sharing that. I appreciate that. And I can honestly say that RILA has been one of the best organizations, best projects that I've ever worked with. I stepped down this year, so I can say that without bias. And just go, send as many kids as you can, send yourselves. I think a lot of times as Rotarians, we don't see ourselves as equals as students, with students or teenagers. If you go there, you'll love it. I see Diane and I see Mary Kay, who have both went, and I haven't paid them at all, and they like it. Thank you very much.